City Current. Produced by Dakota Media Access. In-depth discussion with Bismarck and Mandan city officials. Watch on Government Access Channel 602 HD or tune in to Radio Access 102.5 FM. Always local, always current.
Hello and welcome to City Current. It's Wednesday, October 23rd, and we are here in the studios at Dakota Media Access. Jason Timonik, City Administrator for the City of Bismarck, is here. I'm Mary Van Sickle, and we are here, as always, to talk about the City Commission actions and activities from last night's meeting.
That's correct. Hi.
Yeah, hi.
How are you today?
Good. It's another sunny day. We kind of dropped in temperature a little bit. It's fairly normal this time of year, so it's still positive, though.
Yeah,
I like it.
Fall color looks great.
Yeah.
Driving around town this past
Beautiful.
few days, there's some wonderful trees and shrubs that are in full, I don't want to say full bloom, but
Yeah.
full display. It looks great. So
I woke up yesterday and saw a huge rainbow outside.
I saw some pictures of that.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little rain shower in the morning. And
Yeah. So, anyway,
It's good.
commission meeting last night.
Yeah.
Went a couple hours. We had a lot of items on that
We
agenda.
did. We had a pretty good list of things
Yeah.
to talk about.
For sure. No comments during the public hearing part at the beginning, as I
Nope.
recall.
Quiet
Okay.
group. Yeah.
Yeah. Consent agenda, we did want to pull out a couple of items to talk about. There were a call for hearings, which will happen at your next meeting. Now, we've got a break, and
We do.
usually it's every 2 weeks, but it's 3 weeks.
There's 5 Tuesdays in October this year, so we will meet next on Tuesday, November 12th.
Okay, so these hearings will happen at that time, and they all happen to be F1 liquor licenses.
Yep.
One is for Rockin' 50s.
Right.
Change of ownership
New
there.
owners. Yep.
And then Courtyard Hotel, one of the hotels.
Correct.
That's also a,
They had a
Change of
license prior, and the license expired, and
Okay.
now they've come back, and they're actually applying for an F1 license, which has that food alcohol split. The license they held prior was the one specific just for hotels, but this will afford them the opportunity to sell a little more alcohol than they were prior.
okay.
So,
And then the third one is Fago Gaucho, which is the Cezanne location up in North
Right.
Bismarck. So, again, ownership issues
change of
there.
ownership and whole new brand, whole new style of restaurant coming in
Okay.
at that location.
All right, so 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
November 12th, excuse me, those hearings will be available for public comment.
Yep.
So, also, consent agenda item, this was not pulled for discussion. I don't believe any of these items really were, but Sanford encroachment agreement, I thought this was kind of interesting. We're seeing that new, the expansion of their existing building on 7th and Broadway area.
Correct.
Yeah, so this has to do with going underneath 7th Street and Broadway, connecting to the main hospital now for this expansion with fiber optic
With
cable.
fiber optic cable,
Okay.
right. So for anybody that's driven along Main Avenue or 7th Street, you're seeing now the bones of the building that are starting to go up. Essentially, it's doubling the footprint of the building that's there today. It's is the former Bank of North Dakota site, for those that remember that location. But I think there's a map indicating that the fiber
we
will
do have a
run
map.
across 7th Street, down 7th Street, and then connecting to the existing building that's already there. And so really what is the purpose of this being on the agenda? An encroachment agreement, essentially it's the city's way of acknowledging that there are private utilities within public property. And so we'll have a record of it. There's drawings to accompany it. It will be part of the 811 locate system in the future when
Sure.
when those types of things happen. So it's just it's another way to inventory the things that are underground and that are very important for connectivity and for information, and
Absolutely.
having the commission approve this is part
Yeah.
of the formality.
Well, and this is the public right-of-way. You just don't want anybody drilling under the
Exactly.
streets without permission and information shared, so, yeah. They will not be tearing up the street.
I do not believe so. Typically today you see these things that they're bored or
Okay.
they're without tearing open 4 lanes of a one-way heading south. Yes,
Okay.
I believe
So
there would
across
be.
7th, across Broadway, down to that location?
Yep.
Okay, that was approved, so that may be happening at any time. Free excess items at the landfill, that's exciting.
It is if you're interested in free pallets, free wood mulch, or free logs for firewood or carving or whatever the case might be. And so occasionally the landfill has an abundance of these items. Typically these things are for sale. Wood chips and firewood generally year round. You can purchase those things and take them home and do what you need to do with them. However, there are times when there is just too much, and it's one way to get rid of it would be to bury it, which is essentially
Wasteful.
not the best use of our giant hole that we need to use very mindfully for municipal
Yeah.
solid waste. And so Public Works Surface Operations Director Steve Solway came forward with a request to say, when we have an abundance of these things, commissioners, is it okay if we give some of them away? And the answer was yes, not a problem.
Sure.
So in the future, when those opportunities do come forward, I would anticipate we would do some sort of an announcement either through traditional media or social media or both.
Okay.
I don't want to speculate how often or how much material would be available. But just know that there may be times periodically throughout the year that you'll see a sign that says, hey, free pallets available at the landfill, first come, first serve, and the hours of the landfill would be posted and things like that.
So even though this was approved last night on the consent agenda, it doesn't mean these things are available right this minute. There's going to be
Correct.
information shared through the city.
Yep.
It'll come out when you can pick up and.
Exactly.
what you
And
can
in the
pick up.
past, we have done free mulch and free compost for a week or something like that where we've advertised it. This gives Steve the ability to use his professional discretion as needed. When these things accumulate, it might just be pallets for a couple of days. There might be a truckload of pallets that come out, and rather than putting them in one of the cells,
Okay.
pile them up off to the side. Hey, if anybody wants to reuse these, some people burn them, some people use them for crafts, some people use them in their traditional format,
Sure.
stacking and shipping items.
What would you recommend is the best way for people to find out about this?
I would say probably our social media page will be one of the
Facebook.
first announcements. Obviously, if you have questions
Instagram.
about any of this, you could call Public Works 355-1700. That's
Okay.
the main line to the Public Works building on 26th
Okay.
Street, and there will be some prompts from there if you're looking for a specific division.
Okay.
But yeah, for folks that are interested, I would call the source. They'll have
Well,
more information.
And you do share, your office shares information with us. We'll be posting it on our bulletin board, so
Yeah.
we'll get it out there as well.
And
so.
with this being a kind of a new program, we'll learn along the way. I'm
Yeah.
not going to say that it'll be perfect out of the chute, and it'll just be an interesting little program
Sure.
as we go forward.
Also on the consent agenda was snow hauling bids. This comes up obviously every
Every
year,
year.
and I hate to use the S word, but we've got to talk about it. I think it's interesting though that you have to even do this. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people don't realize that the city has to engage private industry to help with this.
Yeah.
Of course, it depends upon the amount of snow we get.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what it all hinges on. I think it's also interesting that you have a number of haulers that proposed and submitted bids.
Right.
And you use sometimes many of them, if not all, because you just don't, again, know about the quantity of snow we're going to get. We may need to engage many of them. So that was confirmed. I think there was at least
I think
10.
there were 7
Okay.
or 8 companies that applied, and what they're offering is a variety of equipment. And let's make sure we know what we're talking about here. We're talking about snow hauling. So these aren't the guys and gals that are going to be cleaning the streets with a motor grader and a front end loader. These are dump trucks, side dumps, large pieces of equipment that are hauling snow to a designated site where we basically dump it. What's going on here is in situations in years when we have a large accumulation of snow, they'll come through, maybe it's the downtown area, maybe it's residential areas where there's a lot of snow on the boulevards, pull that snow off, put it in the middle of the street, shoot it into the back of a truck, haul it out, dump it,
Sure.
keep going. And so there's, based on the equipment, the the size. There's a range of prices. It's all based on an hour. And so when we do have those years with large snow, we'll be calling on some of these companies to help us get it out of those areas and put it in a place so it can melt.
Yeah, thanks for the explanation there. The city will continue to plow the streets.
Absolutely.
It's just the accumulation along the curbs and those dangerous intersections, wherever they might be, the most vulnerable places that are piling up snow. Well, that leads to the next item on the consent agenda, and then this was pulled for a couple comments. This is an experiment that's being proposed through your Public Works. Has to do with the downtown area, and again, the accumulation of excess snow on the boulevards.
Yep.
It can be very difficult. I mean, our organization was located downtown for a long time, and that snow accumulating on the curb either requires you to tunnel out a walkway for people who are parked on the street, or people climbing over these snowy embankments, and that's not very safe.
Right.
And certainly not very welcoming. So
Yep.
can you explain a little bit about what's being proposed?
Sure. So Director Salwai, and this is done in a lot of other areas, instead of pushing the snow to the outer edges of the street, the plows will be turning the snow inward. And so along Main Avenue between Mandan Street and 6th Street, it's generally that 3-lane corridor of Main Avenue, that area, temporarily, the snow will be pushed to the middle of the road, and then it'll allow east-west traffic. There will be intersections, of course, at all the marked intersections, but it will eventually, once Public Works is done cleaning the rest of the city, they'll come back with different equipment, maybe the snow haulers, and they will physically remove that snow from the middle of the street and get it out of the downtown area. So what it's doing, it's preventing what you described, and that's these large berms that are pushed to the outer edges of the street, which impede parking, and then which ultimately end up on the edge of the sidewalk. And if you're a business owner, a store owner, a resident downtown, it becomes a real challenge.
Well, it's a barrier.
It is.
You know, and it over time it gets solidified, ice melting, whatever
Yep.
it is.
And depending on which
Another
side of the
snow.
street
Yeah.
you're on, there's shade, there's sun.
Yeah.
And so kudos to Steve and his team. They worked with the downtowners who pulled a number of businesses along that corridor and said, hey, the city's thinking about doing something differently with snow removal. What are your thoughts? And overwhelmingly, the business owners said, give it a try. Let's see what happens. And so by no means is this a permanent effort, but it will be done this year to see if it makes anything easier or better for the downtown area.
Sure. I mean, really don't know the impact of something like this. And I guess the only thing we can say is when it starts, we'll mention, it'll be talked about at the commission level.
Certainly.
And we will mention it again, and I think it's going to be, people be patient. It's an experiment to see if this works better, and you got to try
Right.
at some point. So,
Yeah.
and it's just Main Avenue at this point.
Correct, just that 7-block area
Okay.
on Main Avenue. And kudos to Steve and his team for coming up with something different. Let's
Alternatives.
try it and see
Yeah.
what happens here. I think it's
worth it.
It's worth a look, for
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, this is City Current. I'm Mary Van Sickle, here with Jason Timonek, the City Administrator for the City of Bismarck. We are talking, as always, on City Current about the commission activities last night and the decisions made there. So we're moving on to the regular agenda, and I believe starting out was Kate Herzog from the Downtowners, giving an update, the quarterly report for the Downtowners in their efforts for economic development. They're contracted
Exactly
with
right.
the city. Kate was scheduled somewhat to be at the last one along with the Chamber EDC, but out of state at that time, so she's picking it up last night and
Yeah.
gave a little report. You want to give us some highlights of her report?
Sure, she did a nice job kind of covering a lot of the things that they've been working on the past few months. One of them, and we've talked about this here, it's gotten some media attention as well, the Neighborhood Reinvestment Program, working with both Capital Credit Union and Gate City Bank. It's a loan program for homeowners that are interested in essentially fixing up portions of their home or things that need to be remodeled. It's what I heard Kate say is close to $900,000 has been lent
that's
in Bismarck.
Substantial.
Very similar program in Mandan and other communities in North Dakota, but just what an outstanding opportunity as a homeowner to to reinvest in property that you're living in.
And I think it's important to also note, Gate City Bank did start this program. It's running in Cass County, it's
Yep.
running here in Mandan. But the Bismarck Downtowners invited other banks to join in, and that's
Correct.
when
Capital Credit.
Capital Credit moved into this. It's still open to all banks.
Correct.
And it looks like this program could continue in the future.
It seems to be really successful in less than a year's time to generate close to $900,000 in loans for homeowners.
To make improvements, and I think it needs to be noted that it's not to, put different color paint in your living room.
Right.
It's substantial improvements that increase the value of the property.
Correct, and there's a category that your home has to lie within a certain area of the valuation and the age of the home, and
Sure.
so it's not just a blanket program. It's intended to reinvest in some of the older housing stock in the community.
Yep.
So she reported on that. She also reported on a lot of the work that they're doing with the new Americans, people new to Bismarck. She shared that the Downtowners hosted a cruise along the riverboat, or on the riverboat, 105 attendees and 12 different languages spoken by those in attendance. So I think that's just great that they're working so hard to help people be part of the community
And feel welcome,
and
yeah.
be business owners, families, families, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
We're guilty of this. I think we're friendly, we're nice, but we're not always as warm and welcoming as we think we
Sure.
are. And it's sometimes, as an adult, it can be hard to make friends. And so, good on them for helping people feel like they are part of the community and making some of those connections. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. So Kate will be back in another few months?
Quarter, yeah. So they're scheduled to do a report once every quarter, so 4 times a year. And so we'll likely hear from Kate and Brenda at the December City Commission meeting, kind of wrapping up the year's worth of efforts
Okay.
that both groups have been a part of.
Sounds good. There were some public hearings last night. We talked about them the last time we were together as well, because we knew they were coming. Taxi cab license was approved last night. No discussion, just move forward, no public comments.
Correct. Now we've got 3 different licensed taxi companies. This one is Silver Stream Transportation. Yep.
Yep. F2 license, beer and wine only at Taco Del Mar. That was approved. And then there were a number of community development, public hearings, land issues and whatnot. They all went through, including the diocese establishing a public unit development.
Planned unit
unit development,
PUD.
over by the cathedral to build a convent over
Correct.
there. So that moved forward as well. I think the most significant public hearing, though, was this ordinance text amendment. We should mention that again. And there was, I believe, a developer came forward and did make a comment in support of this. Can you kind of review what that's all about?
Yes, this is essentially it's a response to developers requesting some flexibility with construction, and not necessarily the means of construction, but the size of construction. And a zoning district, R5, it stands for single family, so you will only see single family homes in an R5 district. What the developers had requested, the home builders had requested, was the opportunity to increase the footprint of the structure. Right now, or prior to last night's approval, I should say, the lot coverage was 30%. So 30% of the lot, whatever the size was, the maximum size of the footprint of the home was 30%. After the change last night, that number increases to 40%. Now, this is not a wholesale, every single family home in the community suddenly goes to 40% lot coverage. This is just for these brand new lots that are coming through the system, needing to have stormwater approval and some other things that go along with it. So it's really, you'll see the difference out on the edges right now, where we're building new homes. But in the future, as the Land Development Code project continues, I think we will see some other adaptations in the zoning code. We've talked about that before, what a significant project that is for community development. But these are the types of adjustments and modifications that I would anticipate would come as part of that larger project. Some might say, well, why are you doing it now if you're going to do this larger project? Because right now it's in response to the request that came through. We didn't just turn the corner and say, sure, we'll go to 40%. Lots of discussion happened prior to this, action item, but it has been an ongoing conversation for some time.
Well, and as you say, it's not just open
Correct.
to any lot. There are some conditions that go along with this.
Yep.
So.
It says only lots and subdivisions that already have a conditionally approved post-construction stormwater management permit, and that's some city jargon.
Okay.
But it's really talking about new lots that are out today.
Moving on, regular agenda, there was a confirmation of the special assessments that the projects are done and completed. And then on the tail end of that, there was authorizations of the bonds to pay that. So we had a number of projects move forward this year.
We did, and we had some large bonds that went out to accompany them. We've got the sidewalk, curb and gutter bonds, and then we've also got the bonds for special assessments for just traditional street improvements. And every time in the past when we've done this where we're selling bonds or issuing bonds, we've worked with Colliers, which is a financial agency here in Bismarck, and last night John Lundby from Colliers was part of that bond issuing process, and John was very pleased with the results that we've got. My notes just indicate, so on the there were 7 bids from across the city on the Series T bonds, which indicates the city of Bismarck is generally low risk. We're a good customer. We've got good credit. We've got a good rating. We pay our bills. And so to have 7 large entities competing, offering us the best rate, that's very favorable. It's good to know. And so we ended up with a 15-year maturity with a 3.23%, again with 7 bids across the city. And then the Series T, we just had the sidewalk, curb and gutter, we just had 1 bid at a little bit of a different rate, 3.603%, but still very favorable numbers in the market, good for us, and ultimately good for those that will pay the special assessments, because that's ultimately how that all comes together.
Good report card for the city.
Yeah.
Financial report card, so
Yep.
that's great. Moving on again, DOT, this is a project, a special transportation project that funding is being sought for. And this has to do with a roundabout out in Lincoln and Yagan Road.
Right.
We've got a map we could pop up there that talks about or demonstrates where this would land.
And it's actually city limits, because all the adjacent property is owned by the airport. And this would fall under the category of the Highway Safety Improvement Program. And we've talked about this program before. It's a DOT program where there's an 80-10-10 split, where federal funds pay 80%, DOT pays 10%, and the city picks up the 10% construction cost. Other projects, a lot of people have seen the rapid flashing beacons, the pedestrian indicators on 7th and 9th Street. Those are projects that were paid for using this type of a program. So what we're looking at here is a potential roundabout, as you mentioned, at Lincoln Road and Yagan Road. So this will be the southeast corner of the airport. But it's also one of the few in and out points for the city of Lincoln itself. And there's some images within the agenda packet that show long lines of traffic in and out during the travel times. I personally don't live in Lincoln, but I'm well aware of the number of vehicles that are commuting in and out of the community every day.
Yep.
Roundabouts, they're becoming more common. And
I joked with you earlier about it was amazing that this went through and nobody objected to a roundabout, that it seems actually to be part of the norm now.
I think as
Nobody's
a community,
scared anymore.
we're learning to accept that roundabouts are coming. They're here, and for many, they probably still don't care for them. Okay, I understand that. But I think for a lot of people that do travel these intersections on a regular basis, I think they realize that they do move traffic more efficiently than the traditional 4-way stop systems.
And they're safer.
And they are safer.
Proven to be safer. So, any idea about timeline on this?
I don't know. I'm just looking here in the agenda memo from Gabe, and I don't see anything on here. The total estimated cost would be $3 million, and then I guess we'll go from there to see if the project is even included in the overall program.
It has to go through the process.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. This is a project, and this next item is something we've been hearing about at Mandan. We see it at the Burleigh County and Morton County meetings as well. This is the Big Sky Rail project, trying to resurrect the empire builder on the the southern tier of the Dakotas, trying to resurrect that passenger train service. It's pretty far out there in the future, but it's got to start somewhere.
It does.
And the reason it's on the agenda is that the organizers, primarily from Montana, are asking for membership of the cities along the path to show that they're interested and they want to have a voice.
Yeah, they're calling it a government partners program.
Right.
And so there's a small fee that goes along with being part of that. But what does that fee get you? It gets you a seat at the table. There's information.
Sure.
There's a voice in this conversation. And so Commissioner Risch, former railroad engineer, spoke very passionately about his experiences working with Amtrak, former passenger service, and then Burlington Northern Santa Fe. I understand and appreciate his enthusiasm.
And his perspective is certainly valuable.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be.
Yeah,
with
definitely.
that history behind.
So he shared with the public last night that he was part of the Amtrak service when it ceased in Bismarck, and so that would be challenging to
certainly
to be employed and then watch something that for years was a reliable service and then suddenly it is gone.
Yeah.
So what is the reality of this? I guess we'll wait and see. The commission agreed. Yep, let's go forward. Let's be part of this government partners program. More information as this thing continues to grow and build support partners, stakeholders, whatever the case may be.
And the same attitude is over in Mandan. We've seen too is that bring it on. Let's go.
Yep.
Let's talk about this and see where it goes.
Yeah.
But obviously, Bismarck Mandan would be a great location for a station.
Definitely,
no doubt.
yeah. And historically, we are a railroad town. We exist. Bismarck exists because the railroad stopped at the east side of the Missouri River in 1872.
And Mandan built a lot of business on their railroad yards over there. I mean, obviously,
Yeah, and
for
still
sure.
a very active yard
Absolutely.
in Mandan. Mandan is a railroad town, no question.
Yeah. Garbage survey
Yep.
results. We're going to talk trash again. So you did the big survey. We talked about that. You got a
3,000,
very
over
big
3,000
response,
responses. I think
which is
that
great.
it speaks to the interest.
Yeah.
A very diverse range of responses. But overwhelmingly, there are some takeaways here. And I think, again, to mention his name, Steve Solway, he did a good job summarizing everything that came together.
He walked through the whole thing,
He did.
which I think is interesting. And we'll throw up one graphic here just to give the background information. This is really the impetus for the need here and the need for the survey. And this is the new style of garbage truck that's available. No more open-ended on the back.
Correct.
Which is forcing this change. So the survey went forward, and these were the results.
Yep. And just a quick summary, 71% of the people that responded indicated that it is important to keep the trash collection rates low. And so when that's your driving mindset, that we're going to keep things affordable here, we start to put things in perspective. And so what were some of the options? Homeowners could request a second trash can, and there would be a cost to that. These receptacles, I believe they're cost the city somewhere between $50 and $70. So there's the one time you got to pay for the new can, but then the weekly charge to pick up that can would be half of what your existing can rate is today. Another option Steve suggested was special trash bags. I think they were like a 33-gallon size trash bag. They would be purchased from through the city or through potentially partners in the community. Steve had mentioned grocery stores might be a place that we could offer to sell these things. And so what does that extra bag do? Well, for $2, you can put your extra stuff in that bag. Commissioner Zenker said, well, where does the bag end up? Well, it ends up next to the can. So how does the bag get picked up? If we're telling people it has to be in the can in order to get picked up, how does that extra bag on the side of the can get picked up? Well, Steve explained the operator would have to first empty the can using the truck and the apparatus, get out of the truck, put the extra bag back in the can, and then hoist the can up in the truck again.
Oh, okay.
So,
more labor.
More labor, more time, so more cost. And so those bags, Steve was indicating one bag would be $2. and those would be for large, bulky items that wouldn't normally fit in your can, or if your can is full and you still have some items that need to go, they go in that extra bag, and there's the extra fee.
Yeah. Okay.
Other options, the other topics, of course, was grass collection. How many people are putting grass bags out on the street versus taking them to the recycler or mulching them into their lawn. One other option they talked about was a potential pickup service for large, bulky items. So, say you're a homeowner, you've got a piece of furniture, you've got an appliance, you have no use for it anymore, but you have no way to get it to the landfill, and you don't want to wait until spring cleanup in April. So the city is considering developing a program that would enable a homeowner to call and say, I've got a large item, here's my address. There would be a fee for that service. It would be a fee to come and pick up the item. Steve was indicating a $20 fee for that service, but then also whatever that item is, it has a disposal fee at the landfill. So if it's a couch, it's got a set fee. If it's a refrigerator, it's got a different fee.
Okay.
So you would pay the $20 to have it picked up, plus the disposal fee.
Okay.
Yep.
We're looking at the graphic on the screen too, and he did say this as a note on the bottom, that this could likely be lose some money in the process, because it does take quite a bit of labor, and
Right.
somebody has to administer those billings as well. But it is a service, and there's a lot of people who don't have a pickup or
Completely understand that.
muscles to throw a refrigerator in the back of a pickup and take it there. So I think that's a great service if it
Yeah.
can be implemented.
And so in the end, the commissioners agreed that to give this one some time. Let us talk about it. Let the media talk about it. The results are on our website. The full presentation, thanks to Dakota Media Access, is available on demand through your replay as well. And so I believe it was Commissioner Connolly that had suggested, let's pause on a decision tonight. Let's let the community ruminate on this information, and if anybody has questions, concerns, thoughts, or ideas, we've got a public comment period at the meeting on November 12th. That would be your opportunity to share your thoughts with the commission at that time.
When do you anticipate, if this moves forward at that time, that these changes could be implemented?
I think I heard Steve say 2025,
Okay.
January. Obviously, there's some behind-the-scenes work with billing, and if there's a program that we're going to be picking up items, how does all that get communicated? Who
Right.
do those calls go to? There's some work that needs to be done on our part.
Yeah.
And what Steve was looking for is direction, with recognizing at that time he'll have about 6 weeks left in the year to
Put it pieces
figure it all
together.
out and
Yeah.
communicate it to everybody and see where
Okay.
we go from there. But it was noted, of the 12, 13 large communities in North Dakota, we in the city of Bismarck and West Fargo to some degree are the only two cities that still pick up extras. And extras, again, are those items that don't fit in the can. So if you're in Fargo, Mandan, Jamestown, Minot, if you have extras,
No.
they get left behind. It
Yeah.
has to be in the can. So I'm just noting that
Has to be changed,
We
yeah.
are forced to make a change because the equipment we use is being discontinued. But I realize this is a service that many people have come to expect, and change can be challenging.
Right.
But we continue to talk about it. We hope more people understand and realize that this isn't something that we sought out to do. This is something that is
I was just a child
result.
when this happened, but I do remember the garbage collectors would actually walk into your garage, open your garage,
Yep.
pull the cans out, dispose of them, bring them back to the garage, and close the door.
Close the door. Yeah,
It's a new day.
it is.
It's time for another change.
It's
So,
time. I agree.
boards and committees, the applications are available. Again, this is a seasonal thing, comes
is.
forward every year. You've got a number of committees you're looking for membership on. It's a great way to get familiar with workings of the city.
Absolutely. Volunteer work, we're looking for Animal Advisory Board, Human Relations Committee, Vision Fund, Forestry Advisory Board, Renaissance Zone Authority, Planning and Zoning Commission, Board of Adjustment, Historic Preservation Commission, and last but not least, the Bismarck Parking Authority.
Sounds
So
good.
if any of those things interest people,
Check out your website.
check out our website. Absolutely. If you have questions about any of those, we can get you to the right department that staffs those
Okay.
committees. There's write-ups on all of them on our website.
Descriptions of what's expected. Because some meet
Generally
very-
once a month,
Yeah.
some as needed.
Right.
The Board of Adjustment doesn't meet very often anymore. There was a period of time where they met monthly because they had a number of applications.
Okay.
But most of these do have a monthly schedule. So
And this leads into the 2025 Citizen Academy, another way to get
2025.
involved and learn more about the inner workings of the city. And
Yeah.
this will be year
season 4.
4 next year.
Yep.
Okay.
Starting January 9th. So not the first Thursday in January because of the way the holidays lined up. We pushed it to January 9th. It is a 12-week program where citizens will spend 3 hours with us every Thursday, and we will give them an in-depth, behind-the-scenes look at every city department, different city facilities, the operations, the management, the staff, the equipment.
Yeah.
If you're curious, this is the way to learn.
Well, it's a proven winner so far. You've had a couple of people run for office
We did.
and get elected because they got that background. They
Yep.
understood what was going on.
And
so.
I've had others tell me, I've always wanted to be involved in something with the city, but I never felt that I understood enough to be able to offer it.
Yeah.
After this program, a couple of folks said, you know what, I'm going to apply for one of those committees next year because I feel like I can give something
Sure.
back now.
Yeah. So Citizen Academy starting in January, but your applications,
Applications are in November for
Okay.
Citizen Academy and all of the advisory boards, and all of that information is at bismarcknd.gov.
Okay, sounds good. Last item on the agenda last night was the resignation, accepting the resignation of City Attorney Janelle Combs. Sorry to see Janelle go.
Yep.
She's been nice to work with us.
She's been good. She's
Yeah.
been with us since 2018, I believe. Process to replace her position is similar to the city administrator, the assistant city administrator, because those 3 are the appointed positions within the organization. So they are different. They are contract positions. Janelle's last day will be December 5th.
And the path will be very similar to, as you say,
Correct.
To replacing the administrator and assistant administrator.
a number of
However,
steps.
you have you're going to have a gap.
We will.
And state law dictates that you must have an attorney in place.
Correct. And so
Okay.
the commission will have to identify an acting or an interim city attorney.
Okay.
We have 2 assistant city attorneys within the legal departments. We have 3 attorneys, 3 licensed attorneys with the city. With Janelle's position being vacated, then one of those 2 would most likely be looked at as the acting or interim position. And the process will play out with the holidays. It really kind of makes things a little bit challenging. And so it's quite likely we will see interviews in January
Okay.
with hopes of having somebody on board full-time in February.
Well, and you mentioned possibly one of the assistant city attorneys could move into the temporarily interim. However, that's going to gap out some of the workload that's
It will.
already there, and you may have to contract that out, as I understand.
Correct. And
Okay.
both of the assistant city attorneys, their primary responsibilities are spending time with municipal court, prosecuting the misdemeanors and the local municipal offenses. It would likely be easier for us to hire a prosecuting attorney that knows how to handle court cases as opposed to trying to temporarily find somebody to help us with contracts and insurance and real estate and
Okay.
negotiations, because that's a
Yeah.
lot of what Janelle is doing. Plus, she's at many of the advisory board and commission meetings as legal advice, and so she's a very diverse attorney with her experiences
Yeah.
and previous knowledge. I don't know that the next person will have that breadth of experience, and so it's going to be interesting going forward.
She's at a lot of meetings.
She is at a lot of meetings. Yep.
And obviously, we do the meetings, and we observe a lot of the meetings here, and that presence, having that presence there, whether it was Janelle or another group, with their attorney is extremely valuable. You see decisions being delayed because they're not there. So there's a lot of time spent sitting in on meetings. So,
Yep.
yeah, so that'll move forward. It'll come back to the commission. You'll have more discussion.
Right, and commission will have final decision. They will do the final interview and
They
make a
mentioned last night-
selection from there.
Getting a screening committee with some legal expertise
Yep.
present on that committee to help move that process forward. So
Absolutely.
well, we're really close to running out of time, and I'm going to give a shameless plug
Do it.
about some programming that we've launched out on community access, our community access operation. And this is Homegrown Horror Hosts. And the whole thing was put together. We put this together because we had a lot of really different all public domain horror movies and thrillers and these types of things. It's not all horror, but a lot of Halloween-oriented type programming. And we've played those classics for a long time, but there's little commentary ever that goes out with it. So we invited some local dignitaries and celebrities, we think they're celebrities, to come in and provide some commentary before, after, during the film, and then show the whole film. And we were fortunate enough to get a number of great people to come in. This is just some of them. I don't have all of them here. We put them in the studio and had them provide commentary. This pair, Kim Crawley and Karen Bauer, did King Kong, the 1930s classic King Kong,
Sure.
which is very significant for its day, for special effects and whatnot. Obviously, there's been many remakes. We had Nancy Gordon and Chris Stoner from Grand Forks come in and do The Wasp Woman. Most of these people did like 2 films. So, I mean, they were just great in providing background. We had a local trio of gentlemen, probably familiar, Jason Heupel, Ben Brick, and Ivan Miller, talk about a couple films as well. And totally funny. Some of these are funny. There's a lot of insight shared about the significance of some of these films. And a lot of them are B-level films,
Sure.
but some of them are definitely classics. We don't consider our hosts to be B-level celebrities, but they were really fun to deal with. So we've got quite a few. I believe there's 18 different films that are being
great.
featured, and every night at 8 p.m. on our community access platforms. There's many streaming platforms available. freetv.org is one of them. We have an app, so get your Dakota Media Access app. Those are live as well. 8 o'clock every night, and then noon the next day.
Okay.
So running out of time, want to talk about voting. Early voting opens in Burleigh County tomorrow. We're recording on the 23rd,
Yep.
so obviously Thursday the 24th, we got early voting opening at the Bismarck Event Center.
Yep.
Hours, I believe, start at 9 a.m. every day, but check the website for Burleigh County under elections for more information.
Correct.
But I believe 9 a.m. to 5:30 would look like a fairly standard schedule from now until the election. Obviously, on election day, voting will be in
Precincts
lots
will
of
be
different
open.
precincts.
Yep.
So you can do that and check with the Secretary of State's office for any additional information. Bring your ID, and you can check on their website for what that means.
Yep.
What that means. So
Good
very
information.
important. Got to get out there and vote.
November 5th is the election day.
Yep. So we
But-
won't see you till after that. So
Correct.
get out there and vote too.
I will do my part.
You'll be down there tomorrow and getting in line. So, yeah. Well, they've got it down to a science there. I mean,
It works
moves
well.
Really
I have
quickly.
voted
Yeah.
early in the past. I have voted on election day,
Yeah.
and both work really well.
They're organized.
Yep.
So-
Thanks to all the folks that volunteer and help and support, because that's an important
It's a
process
heavy lift.
in our
Absolutely.
community, in our nation.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. Thanks, Jason.
You
We'll
bet.
see you
Thanks, Mary.
3 weeks.
I'll be back.
All right. And thank you for tuning in to this edition of City Current.
For more information on what was discussed in this episode of City Current, visit bismarcknd.gov or call 701-355-1300. If you have suggestions, comments, or issues you would like addressed in future episodes, contact us at info@freetv.org. This program airs on Government Access, Channel 2 and 602 in HD, or on Radio Access 102.5 FM. It's also available as a podcast on radioaccess.org and as a video viewing link at freetv.org. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of City Current.